I'm sitting in a car on another rainy Dublin afternoon and answering questions. This week's question is this: what is the use for sanitary pads? And I'm thinking probably that the question is wanting us to explain sanitary pads to our kids. So the first thing my brain did is think about an afternoon a bit like this. Actually, if you notice, all my windows are a bit huffed up. I've been sitting in here for a while because one of my children is doing sport, and I remember the day that I got into the car and it was very huffy, and I had one of my kids with me and the demister wasn't working, so I leant over to the glove box, took out one of my emergency pads, unwrapped it and used it to wipe the huff off the windscreen. And that was the use of my sanitary pad on that day. But I don't think that's the answer that this parent is actually going for. So when we're a parent and we are having these conversations with our kid about anything to do with sex or sexuality or reproduction or consent or whatever it is, we have sort of three jobs really to do. One of them is, yes, to give them accurate information. But the second thing is to decrease stigma. And stigma means when a topic is taboo or there's shame associated with it, for not to do with anything to do with the topic itself, but because the culture has decided that that particular topic or concept or idea should be hidden away and not spoken about. Okay, so our job as parents is to change that culture in our family so that our kids will talk about even those shameful things. Because particularly the shameful things, they're the things that we need to support our kid to learn how to talk about. And the other thing that we do as parents is to develop a level of comfort around these things. And we help all the people in our family develop comfort talking about anything to do with their health. And of course, our sexuality is part of our physical health and our mental health. So when we're talking about sanitary pads and not about necessarily wiping windows with them, we can go back to the beginning of why we might need a sanitary pad. So if you haven't had a conversation like this with your kid yet, you can start something like this. So we'll start off with something like this, that new humans grow in the uterus. When the uterus is getting ready to grow a new human from tiny little cells, it creates a little special cushion made from really healthy blood. Now, if the little cells that are going to grow into a human don't go and nestle into that special cushion, then the body doesn't need the cushion anymore. And so the uterus squeezes the special cushion out, just like we sometimes squeeze toothpaste out of a tube. And when the uterus squeezes the blood out of itself, it comes out the vagina. And the vagina is like the head of the toothpaste tube. You know, if you squeeze a toothpaste tube and you see the toothpaste shoot out, or maybe sometimes slowly come out, well, that's what happens with the special cushion made of blood. It slowly comes out of the vagina. And then our job is to catch the blood so that it doesn't get on our clothes or it doesn't get on the furniture. And it doesn't matter too much if it does do those things, but it's easier to catch the blood before it makes a mess. Just like we wouldn't spray toothpaste all over the basin, we'd catch it on our toothbrush, right? So one of the ways we can catch the blood is with a pad or a sanitary towel or whatever you want to call it. And you can at this point talk about all the other things you can use to catch blood, like period undies, things like Thinks or Modi Bodies. There's lots of brands for them, but underwear that has absorbent stuff in it, they're really cool. Didn't have those when I was a kid. There are cloth reusable pads. There are tampons with applicators, without applicators. There are a thing called menstrual cups now, made of silicone and can be reusable. And we can tell our kid that every different way of catching the blood has positives and negatives, benefits and downsides. So things like it creates rubbish, or we have to wash them, or whatever it is. And so you can create a whole conversation about managing periods around this one idea of what is a sanitary towel. or what is a pad. So and usually this conversation will come up because your kid might find a pad in your glove box or in the cupboard in the bathroom or in your sock drawer or wherever you happen to keep your period products. So that's sitting in the car for another week in huffy windows. I will see you next week. Take care.